Hi everyone, welcome to Azad Revenge Stories channel. The screenshot landed in my DMs at 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. I remember because I just brushed my teeth, climbed into bed after a 14-hour workday, and was doing that mindless final scroll through my phone. The message was from Lister in accounting. We weren't friends, barely acquaintances, really, which is probably why she sent it anonymously at first before revealing herself 3 days later. Thought you should see this. Not everyone is happy about your promotion. That was it. Just those two sentences and a screenshot of a Discord chat titled Operation Make Her Quit with 12 members online. 12. The exact number of men who had interviewed for my position and lost. I zoomed in, my hands shaking so hard I could barely hold my phone. Drew, did everyone get the meeting invite for Friday? We are finalizing the client presentation she'll be delivering to Westlake. Vic got it. I've already removed 3 critical slides from the deck. Nothing she'll notice until she's standing in front of the CTO, stammering like an idiot. Nate, beautiful. Also, I spoke with Denise in HR, planted the seed about Ellis's concerning outburst in the kitchen. She's documenting it unofficially for now. Ellis bats me. Ellis Tanner, 34, newly appointed Director of Product Strategy at Amplitude Tech, the woman who beat out 12 men for a role they believed belonged to one of them, the woman they were now systematically planning to destroy. Sorry, I should probably back up. I don't usually do this kind of thing online, but I've been carrying this story around for almost 2 years now, and I'm finally ready to talk about it. If you're watching this, maybe you've been through something similar. Maybe you haven't. Either way, if you find it helpful, please like and subscribe. I'm still processing all of this, and knowing I'm not shouting into a void would be nice. So, Amplitude Tech, a mid-size software company specializing in data visualization platforms. I'd been there 4 years, slowly climbing from senior product manager to group manager. The director position opened when Martin Geller finally retired after 17 years. I applied without much hope, not because I didn't deserve it, but because I'd watched 7 men get promoted above me in those 4 years while women with identical qualifications were passed over. The interview process was brutal. 6 rounds, including a panel with the entire executive team, and a presentation on our 5-year product roadmap. I prepared for 2 straight weeks, sleeping maybe 4 hours a night. I knew the product better than anyone. I knew our customers, our competitors, our strengths and weaknesses. I'd been doing half the director's job anyway while Martin phoned it in his last year. When they called me into the CEO's office and offered me the position, I nearly fainted. Literally, my vision tunneled, and Blake, our CEO, asked if I needed water. I remember thinking, this doesn't happen to women like me. Not at companies like Amplitude, where the leadership team was 87% male and the last female director had left 2 years earlier after a suspiciously hushed departure. But it did happen. I got the job. A corner office, a team of 18, and a $45,000 salary bump. I remember floating through that first week, arranging my desk, meeting with my direct reports, one of whom would be Nate Hirsch, the same Nate coordinating with HR to fabricate concerning outbursts about me. I'd noticed some tight smiles, some clipped congratulations. Drew Sullivan, our engineering lead, had canceled our first 3 one-on-ones for urgent issues that never seemed to materialize in documentation. Victor Patel from sales had made a point of mentioning how close he'd been to Martin, how they'd had a shared vision he hoped wouldn't be disrupted. But this a coordinated campaign, 12 of them. I kept reading the screenshot, feeling physically ill. Drew, remember, nothing overt, nothing she can point to, just 1,000 paper cuts until she cracks. Marcus, the Westlake presentation is just the beginning. I've got at least 4 major clients ready to request someone more experienced for their quarterly reviews. Vic, what about the all hands next week? We need her to look incompetent without looking like we're sabotaging her. Jamal, I'll handle that. I've prepared 3 technical questions she won't be able to answer. Nothing obvious, just specific enough to make her look out of her depth. Jamal Jamal, he'd brought me coffee my first morning as director. He'd said, "Congrats, Ellis." Well deserved. With a smile, with eye contact. The last message visible, in the screenshot was from someone called RH. Ryan Holcomb, I assumed our senior solutions architect. RH just keep her isolated. No lunches, no happy hours, no hallway chit-chat. Total freeze. At. Women like her need social validation. Without it, she'll start to question herself within a month. Women like her. Women like me. I sat there in my darkened bedroom, the blue light of my phone illuminating nothing but my face and the bile rising in my throat. My husband, Tio, was away on a business trip, which was probably for the best because I started crying so hard I could barely breathe. Not delicate tears, not dignified weeping. I'm talking full body, snot running chest heaving sobs that made my ribs ache. The kind where you suddenly realize you're making animal sounds you didn't know you could make. Because here's the thing, I had genuinely liked these men. I had respected them. I had advocated for several of them in performance reviews. I had covered for Marcus during his divorce when he needed to leave early for lawyer appointments. I had sent a handmade card to Drew's wife when she miscarried. I had spent countless hours helping Jamal prepare for his professional certification exam. And all along they had just been tolerating me, waiting for me to hit the glass ceiling so they wouldn't have to deal with me as an equal. And when I broke through it instead, they formed a literal conspiracy to make me fail. The worst part wasn't even the betrayal. It was the sudden, crushing realization that my entire professional identity, the competent, respected colleague I thought I was, had been a complete fiction. I hadn't been one of the team. I'd been the woman they permitted to exist in their space as long as I stayed in my lane. I didn't sleep that night or the next. Instead, I went down a spiral, combing through every interaction I'd had since my promotion, looking for signs, and they were everywhere. The way meetings would subtly shift when I entered rooms. How information would reach me just slightly too late. The sudden technical difficulties during my first presentation to the board. The client, who told me he'd specifically requested someone else for a crucial demo. For 3 days I walked through the office like a ghost, watching them smile at me, exchange glances when they thought I wasn't looking. I saw Jamal and Drew huddled over Drew's phone in the kitchen, laughing, then abruptly stopping when I walked in. I noticed how conversations would halt when I approached the lunch table, then resume on completely different topics. I contemplated quitting. God, I really did. I drafted a resignation letter at 3:00 a.m. That third night, tears staining my keyboard. I thought about all the women who'd left before me, who'd sensed what I was now seeing plainly. I thought about the relief on their faces when they told me they were leaving, the way they couldn't quite articulate why, just that it was time for a change. But then something shifted in me. Maybe it was lack of sleep. Maybe it was the pure distilled rage that had been building with each fake smile I'd had to return. Whatever it was, I deleted that resignation letter and wrote a different email instead to Lisser in accounting. I need to talk to you, not at the office. Can we meet for coffee tomorrow before work? She agreed, though her response came hours later near midnight. We met at a small cafe 3 blocks from the office. She looked nervous, fidgeting with her cups, eyes darting to the door every time it opened. Why did you send it to me? I asked her after we'd settled in a corner table. Because it's wrong, she said simply. And because they tried to recruit my brother to join. He's new in it. Your brother Mason, he started last month. Drew approached him last week, said there was a situation with a difficult female executive they were managing collectively. Said Mason should align himself with the right people early, and Mason told you. Mason asked me who the difficult female executive was first. When I told him it was probably you, he was confused. Said you'd been nothing but helpful when he was setting up your new laptop. She paused, twisting her coffee cup. Then he showed me the Discord server they'd added him to. Do you have access to it? I asked, my heart pounding. She shook her head. Just the screenshot Mason sent me. He's scared to do more. He's still on probation. I understand. And I did. Mason had a job to protect. So did Lisser. What are you going to do? She asked. I took a long sip of my coffee, staring out the window at the early morning commuters hurrying past, all headed to jobs where they might face exactly what I was facing. I'm going to need more evidence, I said finally. That screenshot isn't enough. They just say it was taken out of context, or that I'm being paranoid. You could go to HR, Lisser suggested. But the skepticism in her voice matched my own feelings. Denise in HR is already documenting my concerning outbursts, I reminded her. And Blake. I trailed off, thinking of our CEO, who'd hired mostly men for senior roles during his entire tenure. Blake would want this to go away quietly. He'd give me a generous severance package and asked me to sign an NDA. Lisser nodded, understanding completely. So what then? I looked her directly in the eyes. I need someone who can get me more information. Someone who knows how to find things that people want to keep hidden. Like a hacker, she whispered, glancing around nervously. No, I said, pulling out my phone and searching for something I'd been considering all night. Like a private investigator, I turned my screen to show her the website I'd found at 400 a.m. Vidian Investigations, specializing in workplace misconduct and digital evidence gathering. The lead investigator was a former tech executive herself, Miriam Okonkwo, whose bio simply stated she'd left her SUITE position after 15 years to help others navigate professional environments where the playing field is rarely level. Is that even legal? Lisser asked. Everything on their website is above board. Digital forensics, documented pattern analysis, witness interviews, all legal, with proper consent. I paused. But I have a feeling Miriam knows how to find things that exist in gray areas, too. This is going to be expensive, Lisser said, eyeing the sleek professionalism of the website. Yes, I agreed. It will be, but so is losing my career because 12 men decided I don't deserve what I earned. I sent an inquiry to Vidian that morning using my personal email. By lunchtime, Miriam herself had responded, asking for a consultation call that evening at 8:00 p.m. I sat in my parked car 3 miles from my house, away from any chance of Tio overhearing, and called the number Miriam had provided. Ellis, she answered on the first ring, her voice crisp and low. Tell me what's happening. I explained everything, the promotion, the screenshot, the patterns I'd noticed. She listened without interruption, and I could hear her typing occasionally. You understand that what you're describing is a hostile work environment and potentially actionable harassment, she said when I finished. I do, but I also understand that without concrete evidence, it's my word against theirs, and there are 12 of them. One technically, she corrected. Your ally in accounting makes it 12 versus 11. Lisser isn't going to put her job on the line, I said, and I wouldn't ask her to. Fair enough. More typing sounds. Here's what I can offer. 2 weeks of surveillance and information gathering, digital primarily, but some in-person observation if necessary. My fee is $8,500, half upfront. I swallowed hard. That was more than a month's mortgage payment. What exactly will that get me? Evidence, Miriam said simply, enough to decide your next move, whether that's HR, legal action, or she paused, alternative resolution. Alternative resolution, I repeated. Ellis, she said, her voice softening slightly. Sometimes the system works, sometimes it doesn't. I provide evidence. What you do with it is entirely your choice. I sat there, my free hand gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles went white. $8,500 was a lot of money, but the alternative, letting them win, walking away from everything I'd worked for suddenly seemed completely impossible. I'll send the deposit tonight, I said. Miriam replied. One more thing. I need you to behave absolutely normally at work. Don't confront anyone. Don't change your patents. Don't give any indication you're aware of their campaign. Can you do that? Could I? Could I walk into that office every day, smile at men who were actively trying to destroy me, and pretend I didn't know? Yes, I said, surprising myself with how steady my voice sounded. I can do that. Then we have a deal, Miriam said. I'll be in touch within 48 hours with my initial approach. Try to get some sleep, Ellis. The next 2 weeks will require all your strength. I ended the call and sat there in my darkened car, staring at nothing. But had I just done? Hired a stranger to investigate my colleagues. Committed to spending thousands of dollars I should have been saving for the future? Was I overreacting? Was I becoming the paranoid, difficult woman they already thought I was? Then I thought about that Discord server operation Make Her Quit. I thought about Drew removing slides from my presentation, about fake complaints to HR, about clients being told to request someone more experienced, and I felt something harden inside me, A cold, clear certainty that I wasn't going to be another woman who left quietly, another casualty they could reference vaguely when the next woman dared to rise too high. Game on, I whispered to my empty car. Game on. The next morning, I walked into amplitude like an actress stepping onto a stage. Hair perfectly straight, navy blue suit I'd bought for the final interview. Subtle makeup covering the dark circles from another mostly sleepless night. No one who saw me would have guessed I just put nearly $9,000 on my personal credit card to investigate my own colleagues. Tio still didn't know. How could I tell him, "Hey babe, remember all those guys from work I've invited to our barbecues? The ones who brought wine and played with our dog. They've formed a secret society dedicated to destroying my career." He'd either think I was having a mental breakdown or insist I quit immediately. Neither option appealed to me. So I lied. Told him I was stressed about a major product launch. Apologized for being distant. Promised things would settle soon. And then I watched Drew Sullivan saunter into my 10:00 a.m. stand-up, coffee in hand, 7 minutes late with a smile that never reached his eyes. "Sorry, Ellis. Call ran long with the engineers in Bangalore." There was no call with Bangalore. I checked the logs later, but I just nodded and said, "No problem. Catch you up after." For 2 days, nothing happened with Miriam. I began to wonder if I'd made a terrible mistake. Maybe she'd taken my money and disappeared. Maybe this whole thing was an overreaction to one toxic group chat I'd never see again. Then, on Thursday afternoon, I received an email to my personal account. Initial findings ready for review. Secure link below. Password is the name of the cafe where we met, plus the time of our call. We hadn't met, of course, but I understood coffeehouse Sipam. I clicked the link after everyone had left the office, using my personal hotspot rather than the company Wi-Fi. The document that opened made my blood run cold. Miriam had been busy. The first section contained screenshots, dozens of them from the Discord server, not just isolated messages, but entire conversation threads spanning the 3 weeks since my promotion. They'd created dedicated channels, presentation, sabotage, client management, Ellis incidents, and most chillingly, personal intel. In personal intel, they'd compiled details about my life outside work, my husband's job schedule, my morning routine, the fact that I was trying to get pregnant. How the hell did they know that? Even a note about my mother's cancer scare last year and how emotionally unstable I'd been during that time. The Ellis Incidents channel was filled with fabricated events they were documenting to build a case against me. Conversations I'd never had, outbursts that never occurred, times I'd supposedly thrown people under the bus in meetings or taken credit for others' work. But it was presentation sabotage that hit me hardest. The Westlake presentation was happening tomorrow. My first major client pitch as director, and they documented in meticulous detail how they'd sabotaged it. Drew final deck has been modified. Removed the ROI slide and competitor comparison. Also corrupted the embedded video demo. It'll freeze about 30 seconds in. Vic, I've prepped Charlie at Westlake. Told him to push hard on implementation timeline questions. Ellis doesn't have those numbers because Nate conveniently forgot to include her on the capacity planning emails. Marcus, I'll be there as support, but actually to watch the train wreck. Anyone want to start a betting pool on how long before she gets flustered? I've got 50 on under 15 minutes. I felt physically sick. The presentation was less than 24 hours away. I'd reviewed the deck that afternoon and hadn't noticed anything missing because I'd never seen the original version. The video demo looked fine in preview mode. I had no idea what implementation timeline questions might come up or what the right answers would be. The second section of Miriam's report was even more disturbing. She'd somehow obtained their personal communications outside the Discord server, text messages, emails, even recorded snippets of conversations in the office, kitchen, and hallways. Ryan Holcomb to Drew Sullivan. Text: Blake pulled me aside today. Seemed concerned about the Westlake prep. Think he suspects something. Drew Sullivan to Ryan Holcomb. Text: No chance. He's just covering his ass in case she fails, which she will. That's the beauty of this. We are not doing anything they can pin on us. She'll fail because she's in over her head, just like we knew she would be. Jamal Washington to Victor Patel. Overheard kitchen Tuesday 3:14 p.m. I don't care what Drew says. I'm not comfortable with the personal stuff. Going after her work is one thing, but bringing up her fertility treatments, that's up, man. Victor Patel to Jamal Washington. You want to be the one to tell the guys you're chickening out after you've already seen everything, after you're already implicated. Think about your future here, Jay. Fertility treatments. That's how they knew. Last month, I'd had a telehealth appointment during lunch and thought I'd found an empty conference room. Someone must have overheard. Something so private, so painful for Tio and me after 2 early miscarriages last year turned into ammunition. The final section of the report contained Miriam's recommendations. They were simple, direct, and terrifying. 1. Gather additional evidence for at least 5 more business days. 2. Do not confront any individual yet. 3. Prepare alternate presentation materials for Westlake immediately. 4. Consider whether your goal is a professional survival, B. Corporate accountability, C. Personal vindication. Those options haunted me all night. What did I want? Just to keep my job, to see them punished, to hurt them back. I didn't sleep. Instead, I rebuilt the Westlake presentation from scratch on my personal laptop using files I'd saved during the development process. I found the missing slides in earlier drafts. I re-rendered the video demo. I messaged our database architect at 2:00 a.m., the only person I was certain wasn't involved in the conspiracy, with a desperate request for implementation timeline data, claiming I'd lost my notes. Morning came and I looked like death. No amount of concealer could hide what the night had done to me. But I arrived at the office at 6:30 a.m., printed fresh handouts, loaded my personal laptop with the reconstructed presentation, and practiced my talking points while staring at my hollow-eddy reflection in the bathroom mirror. You will not break me, I whispered to myself. Not today. The Westlake presentation was scheduled for 11:00 a.m. At 10:30, Drew, Marcus, and Vic gathered by my office door, all fake smiles and manufactured concern. Ready for the big show? Drew asked, leaning against my door frame with practiced casual confidence. Just about, I said, returning his smile with one of my own. Actually, could you guys go ahead? I need to make a quick personal call, but I'll be there with plenty of time. They exchanged glances quick, but I courted disappointment. They'd probably plan to escort me, make me nervous with last-minute advice. Watch me squirm. Sure thing, Marcus said too cheerfully. Don't be late, though. Charlie from Westlake is a stickler for punctuality. The moment they left, I grabbed my personal laptop, the handouts, and practically ran to the conference room using the back stairwell. I arrived sweating, but with 15 minutes to spare. Enough time to set up my own equipment, place the handouts, and compose myself before anyone arrived. When Drew walked in with the Westlake team 10 minutes later, the confusion on his face was almost worth everything. Almost. Ellis, he faltered. I thought we were going to use the presentation from the shared drive. Oh, I said innocently. I made some last-minute improvements this morning. Didn't want to risk any technical glitches. You know how important this client is to us. The meeting went flawlessly. I anticipated every sabotaged moment and navigated around it. When Charlie asked about implementation timelines, I had detailed breakdowns ready. When Marcus tried to undermine me with leading questions, I addressed them directly and confidently. By the end, Charlie was smiling. The Westlake team was taking pictures of my slides with their phones, and Drew, Marcus, and Vic looked like they'd swallowed something rancid. Impressive work, Ellis, Charlie said as we wrapped up. Frankly, I was told to expect something different today. Glad to see Amplitude is in such capable hands. I allowed myself one small, vicious pleasure looking directly at Drew as I replied, "Thank you, Charlie," and surrounded by a team that constantly challenges me to be at my best. The drive back to the office was silent. The triumph I expected to feel never came. Instead, a bone-deep exhaustion settled over me. I'd survived today, but they'd try again and again. How many ambushes could I anticipate? How long could I function on no sleep? Constant vigilance and the knowledge that people I broke bread with were meticulously documenting ways to break me That night, Miriam called me. "Congratulations on Westlake," she said without preamble. "How did you?" "I have sources." She cut me off. "But that's not why I'm calling. Things are escalating in the Discord server. They're angry about today." The conversation has taken a more personal turn. What does that mean? It means they are discussing ways to attack your reputation, not just your competence. Sexual harassment allegations, claims you've made racist comments, things that would be career-ending, not just career-damaging. I sat down hard on my bedroom floor, phone clutched to my ear. They wouldn't. "They are considering it," Miriam said flatly. "Ryan and Drew are pushing for it. Jamal and 2 others are pushing back, saying it crosses a line. The rest are on the fence." "What do I do?" I whispered. "That depends on what you want," Miriam said. "We have enough evidence now for several options. We could take this to HR with an attorney present. We could leak it to the board. We could confront Blake directly. Or I prompted when she didn't continue. Or we could give them exactly what they fear most, public exposure. What does that mean? It means we use their own tactics against them. A carefully orchestrated revelation of their behavior that leaves them no place to hide, no plausible deniability, no way to make it go away quietly." I thought about it, my mind racing through scenarios that could backfire spectacularly. I'd be the whistleblower, the troublemaker. Companies say they want those people, but they don't. True, Miriam agreed. But the alternative is waiting for them to escalate further, possibly with false accusations that could follow you for years. "I need to think," I said. "You have until tomorrow," Miriam replied. "Ryan's pushing hard for the nuclear option. Jamal's resistance is weakening. They are meeting after work tomorrow to finalize their approach." After we hung up, I sat on my bedroom floor for hours, staring at nothing. Tio found me there when he got home from his evening client meeting. "Ellis, what's wrong? Are you sick?" I looked up at my husband, this good, decent man who thought the world operated on merit and hard work because it always had for him. How could I explain that my professional world was built on quicksand, that people who smiled to my face were constructing elaborate plots against me, that I was contemplating risking everything I'd worked for just to expose them? "I need to tell you something," I said finally, "and it's going to sound crazy." To his credit, Tio listened, really listened. His face went from confusion to disbelief to rage as I showed him Miriam's reports, the screenshots, the recorded conversations. When I finished, he was shaking. "You need to quit," he said immediately. "These people are dangerous, Ellis." "If I quit, they win," I replied. "Who cares? It's just a job." "Your safety, it's not just a job." I cut him off, suddenly angry. "It's my career. It's everything I've worked for since college. And it's not just about me. What happens to the next woman they target? Or the woman after that?" "That's not your responsibility," Tio argued. "Maybe it is," I said quietly. "Maybe it became my responsibility the moment I saw what they are doing." We argued half the night. Tio wanted me to quit, file a lawsuit from the safety of unemployment. I understood his fear, but something in me had shifted. The initial shock and hurt had hardened into something else, a cold, clear purpose. By morning, I had my answer from Miriam. I called her on my way to work. "I want option C," I told her. "Personal vindication, public exposure, but I want to control exactly how it happens." "I thought you might," Miriam said, and I could hear the smile in her voice. "Here's what I propose." The plan we developed was elegant in its simplicity. Miriam would compile a comprehensive report, screenshots, recorded conversations, text messages, a timeline of incidents, both attempted and successful. Meanwhile, I would continue as normal, giving no indication I knew anything. On Friday, 8 days after receiving that first screenshot, I would call an emergency product team meeting. All hands required, no exceptions. I would project Miriam's report on the screen page by page with no commentary. Just let them see themselves, their words, their plots exposed in high definition for all their peers to witness. No HR, no lawyers, no corporate mediation, just unfiltered accountability in its rawest form. "They'll deny it," I told Miriam. "They'll say it's manipulated evidence." "Some will," she agreed. "The true believers like Drew and Ryan. But the fence sitters, the reluctant participants faced with their own words, their own participation. Psychology suggests at least some will break ranks out of pure self-preservation. The week crawled by. I moved through each day like a ghost, smiling emptily at people who wished for my professional death. I watched them whisper in corners, schedule mysterious meetings, exchange glances when they thought I wasn't looking. On Thursday night, Miriam delivered the final report, 67 pages of meticulously documented betrayal, times, dates, names, screenshots, transcripts, a comprehensive record of 12 men's coordinated campaign to destroy one woman's career simply because she had succeeded where they had failed. I reviewed it until dawn, my hands trembling with exhaustion and a strange detached fury. This wasn't just about me anymore. It was about every woman who'd been pushed out, overlooked, undermined. Every woman who'd gone home crying, wondering if she was crazy, if she was imagining the subtle sabotage. Friday morning arrived, gray and rainy, fitting for what I was about to do. I scheduled the emergency meeting for 11:00 a.m., marking it as critical product roadmap review to ensure attendance. Then I sat in my office, door closed, waiting. At 10:55, I walked to our largest conference room, connected my laptop to the projector, and pulled up the report. People began filtering in, coffee cups in hand, puzzled expressions on their faces. There was no product roadmap emergency. Everyone knew our quarterly plans were locked. I watched them take their seats. Drew looking annoyed at the interruption to his day. Ryan checking his phone impatiently, Jamal unable to meet my eyes, and 9 others, all with varying degrees of irritation, boredom, or curiosity. At exactly 11:00 a.m., I closed the conference room door and locked it. "Thank you all for coming," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "This isn't about the product roadmap." I clicked to the first slide, a screenshot of the Discord server operation. "Make her quit." The room went deadly silent. "This meeting will last exactly 30 minutes, I continued. "I will not be taking questions. I will not be engaging in debate. I am simply going to show you what I know." For the next 20 minutes, I clicked through page after page of their conspiracy, conversations about sabotaging presentations, plans to alienate clients, fabricated HR complaints, personal attacks, the meeting about false sexual harassment allegations scheduled for that very evening. I watched their faces as the evidence mounted. Drew and Ryan, red-faced and defensive, shooting glances at each other. Marcus gone pale and still. Jamal, head bowed, staring at his hands. Others looking at the floor, the ceiling, anywhere but at me or the screen. When I reached the final slide, I paused. It contained just one line. "This report has been backed up to secure cloud storage and shared with select members of the board, industry contacts, and media outlets, to be released only in the event of any retribution against Ellis Tanner or any future female leaders at Amplitude Tech." I hadn't actually done this. It was Miriam's suggestion, a bluff to protect me from immediate backlash. But the men in the room didn't know that. "I'm not going to HR," I said into the silence. "I'm not filing a lawsuit. I'm not demanding your resignations." I looked around the room, meeting each pair of eyes directly. "What I am doing is giving you this one chance. This report stays private if the Discord server is deleted today. All communication about me stops immediately, and each of you commits to working professionally with me going forward. Any deviation from this, any continued attempt to undermine me or any other woman at this company, and every page of this goes public, your names attached, your reputations in this industry destroyed." I disconnected my laptop and tucked it under my arm. "You have until 5:00 p.m. today to decide. I'll be in my office." I walked out, closed the door behind me, and somehow made it to the bathroom before throwing up everything in my stomach. Then I locked myself in my office and waited. They came in pairs and individually throughout the day. Jamal first, eyes red, a halting apology about cowardice and peer pressure. Then Marcus and 2 others, stiff and formal, assuring me the server would be deleted. 4 more after lunch. Various degrees of shame and defensiveness. Drew and Ryan never came. At 4:58 p.m., my office phone rang. It was Blake, our CEO. "Ellis," he said, his voice tight. "My office, please." Now, I'd been expecting this. Drew and Ryan had gone to him, probably claiming I was unstable, vindictive, making things up. I grabbed my laptop and headed to the executive floor. Blake wasn't alone. Our general counsel, Sandra, was there along with Drew and Ryan, both looking grimly triumphant. "Ellis," Blake began, "I've heard some disturbing—" "Before you continue," I interrupted, opening my laptop, "you should know that everything I presented today is thoroughly documented, including this." I turned the screen to show them all a text message from Ryan to Drew. Timestamp just 1 hour earlier. "Blake will handle her. Just stick to the story. She's unstable, making wild accusations. Don't admit anything about the server." Total denial. Sandra, the lawyer, audibly gasped. Drew went ashen. Ryan started to speak, then stopped, then started again. That's not, you can't just, I think," Sandra cut in sharply. "We need to see everything you have, Ellis and Drew. Ryan, I suggest you wait elsewhere while we review it." 3 hours later, I left Blake's office with a written guarantee of a full independent investigation into the hostile work environment I'd experienced. Drew and Ryan were placed on immediate administrative leave. The others would receive formal warnings and mandatory sensitivity training. It wasn't a perfect victory. Some would call it no victory at all. The trauma of those weeks had fundamentally changed me, changed how I viewed my colleagues, my company, my entire profession. I still had to work alongside men who had participated in a campaign to destroy me, even if they now moved around me with cautious politeness tinged with resentment or fear. But I was still there, still director of product strategy, still earning every dollar of that $45,000 raised. 2 months later, Drew and Ryan were quietly let go. Organizational restructuring. The official announcement said everyone knew the truth. 6 months after that, Blake announced his retirement. His replacement, a woman, the first female CEO in company history. Her first act was to promote me to VP of Product. It's been almost 2 years now. I still have the Discord screenshots, though I never look at them anymore. Miriam and I still meet for coffee occasionally. Tio still worries more than he needs to. And I still wonder sometimes if I did the right thing, if public exposure was better than quiet legal action, if confrontation was better than walking away. But then I look at our leadership team, now 43% women, and I think maybe, just maybe, it was worth it. Not just for me, but for the listeners and the Masons and all the others who saw what happened and realized they didn't have to accept the status quo. So, if you're watching this and something similar is happening to you, whether it's a full conspiracy or just the everyday death by 1,000 cuts that so many of us face, know that you're not crazy. They're not imagining it, and you're not alone. Like, subscribe, comment below if you want to share your story. I read every comment, and I promise you someone else needs to hear they are not alone, too. Thanks for listening. This is Ellis signing off. I invite you to subscribe to the Azad Revenge Stories channel. Like this video and support me further by hitting the hype button so the story in this video can be heard by many more people. Thanks to all.